I never planned to stay in football when I retired. So my plan was always to do something different where I could be somewhat my own boss. I'm the CEO of my company, and I don't have to answer to anybody. I can go to work when I want to. So it's nice. And I also get to enjoy more of my children growing up.
The VAR Show. The one place for your weekly football update.
So hello, a very warm welcome to the VAR Show, the show which talks about all the various major football leagues in Israel. Today we are going to connect theme of interviews, and we have Mr. Marlon King with us. So he has played for the likes of Leeds United, Wigan, Hull City, Jamaica national team, among a host of other teams. So without wasting much time, I would like to first thank Mr. King for coming on the show. Thank you and welcome to the show. And I would like to begin by asking you, how are you and what are you doing these days?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me. I hope you guys are safe and well. Yeah, I live in Zambia now, which is part of Africa, not too far from South Africa. I moved over here 2014 when I retired. I have my own construction and property company. So, we live out here, we enjoy the sunshine, and everybody's fine.
So you just mentioned, you moved to Zambia, do you miss football? Because you said you have a construction company which is very far from football. Do you miss football?
Not really. I mean, I get to catch up with a lot of friends, and I never planned to stay in football when I retired. So my plan was always to do something different where I could be somewhat my own boss. I'm the CEO of my company. And I don't have to answer to anybody. I can go to work when I want to. So it's nice. And I also get to enjoy more of my children growing up.
So I wanted to ask you, you said you mentioned a very important point. Do you think people, those who have had a playing career, they might get tired of the game by the time they retire?
You can do. What happens, what I find is that a lot of people put so much emphasis and energy into just playing football. So when their career finishes, they don't know how to do, or they've never tried to do something different. So they find themselves stuck in the same sort of zone in what they're doing. Even if they want to change, they're scared to change. Whereas for me and my wife, we always planned on leaving football whilst I was playing football. It's very important because football is a short career. So I retired at 34, 35. Now, if I live to 70, 80, 90, I've still got my life after football. So I had to train my mind how to do something apart from just that one thing.
Of course, and I'll get back to your career. And you have played for quite a few big names, in England. How do you look back at your career?
I enjoyed it. Listen, my dream was to become a professional football player. I didn't know anything else, and luckily I was fortunate enough to get the opportunity. And I think I amassed maybe over 400 or 500 games and nearly 200 career goals. So I think I've done okay and managed to provide for my family and give me a good future going forward, and my kids and my wife and the rest of my family a good future going forward. So I have no regrets.
Of course, and the next question may be more controversial, and you have played in various teams. Where did you enjoy your time the most?
I would say my main one that sticks out is probably Watford. When we got promoted to the Premier League, when we was in the Championship, everybody thought we was going to get relegated, a lot of players. So we went up through the playoffs and then beat one of my former clubs, Leeds, in the playoffs. And, there was 90,000 people there. And, it was just a lovely way to go up. And it was a great part of my journey. But I've enjoyed myself at Birmingham, Coventry. I've had different spells. When you're scoring, that's when you enjoy it the most. So for different reasons, different clubs I enjoyed.
Of course, like you mentioned, like like as a striker, when you're scoring, it doesn't matter for whom you're playing. You'll just enjoy that high, like you get of scoring. But like, suppose when you're not scoring, how do you keep your mind in the game?
I think it's important. I mean, it's difficult when you are in the game and you're not being picked. You have to control your emotions. And if you've got a manager who can explain his reasons why he's not picked you, or if he feels you're having a bad game, if he can pull you to the side, it's not just football. Football is a lot to do with emotions, and sometimes players don't know how to take it when they're not in the team or when they're not doing well. You just have to keep practicing on the training field, keep a positive mindset, and as I said, just try not to get upset and beat yourself up, because everybody's human. Everybody goes through a bad spell of having a bad game or not being in the team. So it's just a normal thing you have to deal with.
And for you, did you have any barren spell like that? And how did you overcome if you had one?
Yeah, I mean, I did have spells where managers weren't picking me or I wasn't doing so well. You just got to go back to the basics. What got you scoring goals? Sometimes when you overthink things, it's like anything. If you're a journalist, if you're maybe what you're doing now, sometimes your questions, instead of you writing down the list of questions you're going to ask, maybe you ask the questions that come to your mind, because sometimes that's a better interview than one that's scripted. So, it might be the person, meaning the manager. Like if you interview somebody else, you might not click with them, so the interview's not as good. It all depends on the day. It's just how you deal with your emotions. You need to just get over it fast and go back to doing what got you to enjoy what you're doing. So a number one thing is enjoy what you're doing.
Of course, and like as a striker, which formation did you enjoy playing in?
I'd say 4-3-3. I like 4-4-2, which is a bit of an old one, but 4-3-3 because there's three of you and you can rotate from the left to the central to the middle, and then you share the workload. Whereas if you go 4-5-1, you are the main striker. So when the ball comes up to you, you've got the responsibility of controlling the ball until everybody else joins you, and there's a lot of running. When there's three of you, there's always an opportunity for you to either create a goal or drop back into midfield or score a goal. So 4-4-3, I would say is what was my favorite formation. But 4-4-2 is good.
Of course, and like you started your career back in the late 90s and you played on till 2013, I guess. And like in your experience and opinion, how had the game changed till when you were involved?
Okay, so growing up watching football when I was younger, there was a rule where you could play it back to the keeper and the keeper could pick the ball up. So that's changed. I didn't play the game. The rule had changed. Once I turned professional, the rule had changed that the keeper could not use his hands if it was played back by his own player. What's happening now, if you watched Arsenal-Liverpool game, it starts off from the attacks start from the goalkeeper. So now it's not about the goalkeeper just kicking the ball up the field. It's all about possession. So you start from the goalkeeper and you suck teams in, meaning you leave bigger spaces for you to attack. Sometimes it works. If you're good like Man City and Liverpool of playing those formations, sometimes it doesn't work, where the ball gets cut out and the team takes possession and they score. So it's a very, very risky kind of way of playing, but that's the way teams are playing now. And I think it changed once Pep Guardiola came to Man City and he changed Joe Hart. And because Joe Hart used to kick the ball, but now he had his goalkeeper play from the back. So every single player, including the goalkeeper, has to be technically good on the ball, not just the players outfield.
Of course, and I wanted to ask you, like you spoke about how the game has changed and how the main aim is to build out from the back. And one of your former teams, I think Leeds, are very good at it. They do that, and I think they scored a lot of goals against Liverpool in the opening game week. And what do you think of them this season? How will they perform?
I think they're going to do well, just for the fact that usually teams that are already in the Premiership, say the Man Cities, Man Uniteds, the Liverpools, they haven't played against Leeds in a long time. So you'll find like Sheffield United, they've done really well because they're still figuring out how they play, what their systems are, the players, because they've just come up from the Championship. But usually you find the second season is not so strong because these big teams, they know the manager, they know how to play, they know who their danger men are. So usually it's the second season that they get figured out. The first season, everybody's on a high, it's new. But the way Leeds are playing, I think they're going to do well just because of the way the manager has set them up and the formation they play and the players that they got to play. And they're a big club also, so they got big supporters.
Of course, and I think last week 2 of your former teams played, faced each other. I think the Leeds versus Sheffield. Who do you think will fare better this season? Of course, Sheffield did amazing last year. They could have qualified for Europe, but they did not, sadly. But what do you think? Like, who will fare better this season? Do you think like you said, like Sheffield, this is the second season, they might be found out, how they play. Do you think that will affect their performance?
I think it's hard to tell until you get towards Christmas. It's a very, very key point to start off really well at the beginning of the season. I remember when I was at Hull, we was in the top 3. We won a lot of games going towards Christmas. Then the second end, they nearly got relegated because teams, when they played them again, they knew the formation. So it's important for Sheffield United and Leeds to pick up points now, and especially against teams that are in and around them. Teams that they expected to beat. That's who they. So it's very difficult to tell. Then obviously the window is not closed. I know Sheffield United have made some signings, some good signings, and also Leeds. I'm sure they will make even more signings. So we'll see as we get towards January. Then you can kind of tell which way things are going.
Oh, and you mentioned that season of Hull City. I remember it was quite an entertaining team. I think you all had Giovanni. Did you have Giovanni? Did you have Giovanni?
Giovanni.
Yeah.
Giovanni.
I remember the season. It was quite entertaining, at least the first half. Like, could you explain like what happened? Like, like in the first half season, like you could have qualified for Europe. Like the form that you were in. But second half, you'll tail towards the second half. Is it due to the inexperience, or what is it?
I think it was a mixture of both. We played. We was doing really well, and we beat Arsenal at Arsenal, Tottenham at Tottenham. Then we came up against a Man City side, which at that time they were spending a lot of money. They had Robinho, Adebayo. They had company. They had all the teams, all the players. And then when we hit that result, teams started to gain confidence on it. Okay, now Hull maybe ain't as good as what, and we didn't sign any more players. So we had the same players. So players were either getting injured or, they wasn't getting picked. But luckily, they managed to stay up that season. It happens. Football can just turn like that, where teams are doing well, and then they dip the second half. So the Christmas period where there's a lot of games, January, very, very key point of the season.
Of course, I remember, I think Phil Brown was the manager and he had a microphone here, like you'd attach that. That is quite, I didn't see it on any other manager since him or after him.
Yeah, he used to, because he used to communicate with his assistant manager. Sometimes he wouldn't even come to the touchline, he will be in the stands. So the microphone was to communicate, because what he used to do is get people to go higher in the stadium, because you get a better view of the game. You see, now it's moved on a bit more. Now you've got cameras everywhere. So these guys, even around where they sit, they have computer screens. You've got VAR. You've got like how far a players, how many kilometers they've run. Back then, it was just coming in. So you'd have to go to like higher points of the stand to get a better picture. So he would say, okay, no, this is what's happening. This, because when you're on the ground, you can't see as much as if you're higher up.
Oh, okay. I knew like he was using it for some purpose, but we did not know like you're speaking to someone in the stands itself, you know, like.
Yeah, just communicating with maybe the first team coach, takes down notes for halftime. No, this player he's making this run all the time. So after halftime, we'll go in the change room, and then the manager will point out on the board what's happening. So that's what would happen. The coach will communicate with the manager. The manager will come in halftime, maybe change the formation or change a player and change the situation.
Of course, and like I'll get back to your career, and like as a striker, which was the most difficult opponent you faced?
Oh, there's plenty. Vincent Kompany, Rio Ferdinand. But I always say this one. I would say the most horrible to play against is Emmanuel Vidic when he was at Man United. He's horrible. He's a defender. He's no nonsense. He'll just kick you, elbow you, punch you in your ribs when the referee's not looking all the time. Even if the ball was nowhere near us, he would just try and get into your brain. And if you watch most of these games, he's always got a cut or he's bleeding. He was probably the most horrible.
Of course, and like I wanted to ask you, like you were born in England but you went on to represent Jamaica. How did that happen?
Well, my father has got Jamaican parents, so the opportunity came. For me, you have to be realistic. I mean, to try and get an England cap was very difficult. At the time, you've got people like Marco Owen, Alan Shearer, all these top strikers. So for me, that was the next best option, was to represent somebody within my family's country, which was my father's. So which happened to be Jamaica.
Of course, and you said like how you had planned to move away from football after your career is over. But did you ever get tempted into getting into coaching or something?
No, never. I mean, for charity, maybe. But for me, I looked at a manager's job and I could see how stressful coaching and, it's 24 hours, and when you've been doing something, the same thing your whole life, sometimes you want a change. And for me, it was never a case of I wanted to continue. I mean, some people just, don't get me wrong, I love football, but I don't love it to a point where I want to be continuing to think about football all the time. So I watch it when I can, or I speak to people when I can, but I always say life is bigger than football.
Of course, and that's definitely true. And I wanted to ask you, like, as a player, which coach had the biggest influence on you in your career?
I'd say a person I speak to a lot even now is Adrian Boothroyd, the England under-21 manager. He had me at Watford. He also had me at Coventry, and he was like a father figure. He was really, really good manager. You get managers that are good tactically, and then you get some managers that are good at managing people. So you have certain managers that will not even come and talk to certain players. It's just formations. This is the manager. That's it. You get other managers that will have a drink with you, meet your family. So you've got different people. He was one who could do both. So I'd say Adrian, because he got the both clubs I played for him. I finished top goal scorer every single time.
Of course, and I wanted to ask you, like, generally, the footballers, people say that footballers live in a bubble of their own, like they do not know much about the outside world. As a footballer, what was the biggest fear, if you had any? What was the biggest fear that you had?
Um, what was the biggest fear as a footballer? I think that, that's a difficult question. I've never really thought about it because it's. I mean, it depends. So for me, fear is. I don't know. I've never thought about that's. Maybe it coming to an end. Maybe it coming to an end, but at the same time, I was prepared. So it's like when you're younger, you think, "Oh, it's never going to end. It's never going to end," and then you think, "Oh, when I get to that age," but time goes so quick. You know, you have to be prepared. So the fear gets pushed to the back. You know.
So do you think like footballers these days are more prepared in the sense like you have multiple places or you have multiple people advising them, especially with like you see young players taking up their badges, like football licenses early in their career, so they at least have that option of maybe falling back into coaching or getting into coaching. Do you think that was missing like when you played?
No, not really. I think what they have, footballers have now, and sportsmen, and even people like yourself, media people, they have more of a voice. You know, you've got Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We didn't have that. So to find out about a performance or what a player, how he played, you couldn't just go onto a computer. You had to wait for the newspaper or you had to wait for the news to come on. So that's changed. But you know, you couldn't study your coaching badges online. Now you have online where you can get your badges, learn about formations and stuff from home, all from your laptop. You had to physically go to training sessions to be able to learn about the game. So that's changed. In terms of life skills, it's still pretty much the same. Everybody's focused on football, but there's so many different things that come with football, or any professional athlete or any person in the public eye. There's things that need to be taught to avoid any sort of pitfalls. But now you have social media. I think people are more conscious about how they carry themselves and where they're going, what they're doing, stuff, because they know there's cameras and everything everywhere. So it has changed, which is a good thing. And it's good to see people using it for a positive platform.
And I'll get back to coaches, and like generally we say like there are basically two major traits of a coach. Either they are very superior in terms of tactics, or they're a good man manager. So if you had to choose one coach for each, a good man manager and a good tactician in your career whom you played under, who would they be?
Okay, so I would say man manager, I would say Adrian Boothroyd. Tactically, who was just about formations and knowing, I would say Gareth Southgate. He was very, very good. Actually, he was good at both. He knew how to get the best out of young players. When I was at Middlesbrough with him, he was very, very good. Always had things on the ball, always just football. His knowledge of how to tap the opposition and stuff, I would say those two. And one is England under-21, England manager. So,
like you didn't get into, like you kind of left football after your playing career. So I would like to ask you, like as a player, which one did you prefer, a man manager or a tactician as a coach?
I'd say man manager, because you could give me instructions and I would know how to carry, and I could see things in a game. So a manager wouldn't have to tell me if a midfielder made a run for me to drop in. And as you get older, you get experience. So it's more, you need a man manager as you get older, because he needs to understand you are not 21, your body, you can't train every day. A man manager will say, no, have a day off today, rest, train on Thursday and Friday, have a day off, go to the gym. They will understand how your mind, if you've got family, how it works as you get older. Whereas, a tactician, somebody who's more tactically good, you need them when you're younger. I'd say you need them less when you're older, because as you get older, you get more wiser.
Of course, and like I wanted to, we are getting to the end, and I'll ask you like last few questions. And like you have traveled across England a lot in terms of football, and like what is the most weird footballing experience that you ever experienced, or bizarre, whatever you talk.
Weird. Okay, so I'll give you a quick story because there's too many to get through. So I'm only young, I'm playing for Gillingham, and we play Millwall at the Den. Now, Millwall is one of the most, the fans are very, very vocal. Now, the night before, my wife says to me, oh, babe, what would happen if the kit man forgot the kit? So I says, babe, come on, behave. How can the kit man forget the kit? We travel to the ground. He does these things. He packs the kit all the time. So we get to the ground. The kit man, he's forgot the right colour kit. So he's packed the blue. Now, Millwall wear blue at home. They are the home team, so they have to wear blue. The second kit is similar to their home kit. We can't wear that. So Millwall had to lend us their kit. So it was Gillingham versus Millwall. Gillingham had on a Millwall kit and Millwall had on a Millwall kit. And the abuse we got. But funny enough, we beat them and I scored the winner and it was okay in the end.
So probably that is, I think it would not have happened before that or after that ever.
No, it's never happened, but I think my wife kind of jinxed it because she's got a weird habit of asking random questions that don't usually happen, and then some reason it happened. So that was the first and last time I've ever experienced that.
Of course, and like in your career, like you have played and you have had many, like highs and lows. What was the proudest moment in your career?
Promotion to the Premier League. I think lows getting relegated with Watford. I think when I got injured, I think we got promoted with Watford that season, and about 4 games in, I got injured, really bad injury at Arsenal. And Arsenal was the team I support, and I was scoring goals in the Premier League, and I was out for the rest of the season. And then when I came back, maybe the last four or 5 games I scored some goals, they got relegated. So I'd say football reasons that was probably, it was a high and it was a low for me.
Of course, and like I'll ask you one final question. Like, do you have any advice for any young player who's just starting out?
Yeah, keep your options open, get your education, and never give up on your dreams, because everybody has opinions about everything. So you cannot give up on something because somebody else believes that you might not be good at something. Because I was rejected as a youngster, but I kept going because I believed in my dream and my goal. So I didn't let that person's opinion stick with me. I just kept going until it was possible. So not even for kids in football, just any walk of life, if you believe in something, believe in yourself first before you believe in others. That's where it starts. So invest in yourself before you can invest in anybody else.
Of course, and like on that note, Marlon, thank you so much for talking to me, and I wish you all the best for your endeavors, that is construction, or what, if you ever plan to get into coaching, best of luck for that too, and hope we can talk again soon. Thank you once again for coming. Take care, stay safe, bye.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Same to you.
Player-wise, it would have to be Steven Gerrard, just because, again, before he became a journalist, he was someone I just admired massively in terms of the absolute complete footballer. I think if you were trying to make a footballer in a factory, it would be Steven Gerrard, someone who, I think JB Carragher summed it up best once when he said, you know, Steven Gerrard's biggest strength is he doesn't have any weaknesses.
The stadium. I don't see really need to do that. Mainly such a big spending, but it's true that it would be a fantastic stadium. That's not bad, but you have to be careful, and mainly at this moment when we are going to face a very difficult time.